Welcome to another 21 Hats Dashboard, brought to you by our sponsor, The Great Game of Business. I'm Lauren Feldman. I'm here with Sean Bussey to talk about the things we think business owners should be following this week. As you probably know from our weekly conversations, Sean is CEO and founder of Kinesis, which is based in Portland, Oregon, and works with small businesses on marketing, culture, and strategy. Welcome back to Dashboard, Sean.
Great to be here, Lauren.
Great to have you here. I don't know if you feel this way, Sean, but it seems to me there's a lot going on right now, a lot in the air that affects business owners, and I'm happy to have the opportunity to dig a little deeper with you in a one-on-one conversation. Let's start with artificial intelligence. I feel as though pretty much every day I'm sharing something interesting businesses are starting to do with AI or ChatGPT in the morning report. It seems unrelenting. I'm wondering if you started messing around with it yourself. Are you doing anything?
Yeah, I'm going to ask ChatGPT to answer these questions for you, but
I like it. We could invite that to our weekly podcast.
We should. Oh man, it'll make me irrelevant. No, I must admit I was like a little bit skeptical in the beginning of this, the hype around it. But
well, let me say you wrote a very smart piece in which you suggested that AI is to writing what stock photography is to real photography, and I don't think you were wrong about that.
Yeah, and it's funny because now you're seeing AI trying to supplant stock photography. So that's happening too. It is pretty profound. And the other day I have not used Photoshop in what feels like a lifetime, even though that was really how I cut my teeth and got started in the industry. And I went in and the new version of Photoshop said, "Hey, do you want to try this generative AI?" And I was like, "Sure." And I didn't know what I was doing. I haven't used Photoshop in so long, even navigating my way around is kind of hard, but I just grabbed the wand, I circled some stuff, and I said, "Hey, get rid of this watermark." And in like almost a blink of an eye, it was gone. And it replaced it with believable pixels. So it not only deleted something, but it actually generated something new in the image to replace it that was very convincing. And I just sat there for a minute and I was like, wow. And then I did it again. I did it with some other images and it was really good. And what a lot of people might not know is that in the world of graphic design, which is where I got my start, and in photography, practitioners spend a lot of time fixing images. They'll, cut out some stray hair, or they'll cut something out from its background and put it in another image. And a lot of that stuff takes a long time. It's very labor intensive. And
not anymore.
And gosh, if I could get the hours of my life back that I spent cutting out images, oh my gosh, it's pretty profound, and it makes me think too. That kind of work, that's the work for entry level position. That's the work for an entry level person. It's very boring, tedious, time consuming. So that's going to go away. And so then what is the new entry level work? Or is there entry level work? And those are some of the questions I have about AI.
Does this experience change your thinking about how this could impact Kinesis in the relatively near future?
I don't think relatively near future, but and to be clear, I saw the writing on the wall around how creative agencies and marketing firms make their money a long time ago. Most of them are structured like a traditional accounting firm where they have a bunch of entry-level people processing tax returns, and it's kind of a pyramid, right? So the experienced, high-paid people who are the partners are at the top, and they're doing things like golfing with their buddies and business development. And at the bottom are the people who are working all night long, slogging away at this not very interesting work. So I long ago, I was like, I don't want to do that. And so I really moved Kinesis, I don't know, probably 13, 15 years ago, moved it more into the realm of like strategy, business model, looking at the whole company, very, very much more complex work. And so the graphic design we do is in service to brand and design and more complex things. It's much harder to replace. I think it'll have tremendous consequence for anybody who's in the design industry, because I think you'll be able to fire up a design program and say, hey, make me a 3-page brochure. And on the cover, I would like a picture of an auto mechanic working on a car. And in the foreground, I'd like a happy couple with a baby, and then write me a block of copy that talks about our service and how great it is, and that kind of real kind of basic level stuff, copywriting and design. I don't know why you would pay somebody to do that. But I haven't been doing that kind of work in a long time. So that's the question. I do think the strategy team is talking about it a lot. They're really wanting to get ahead of it and see like, what are the opportunities, what can be done, to leverage it. So the jury's out on what that's going to look like, but I don't know why you wouldn't be exploring it as a business.
Interesting. I have a feeling we're going to spend much of this year talking about this and related issues.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I just had a really frustrating year with my accountant, and I had to move on and go find a new accountant. And I think it's because they were structured to do just kind of like rote processing of returns. And I kept asking them, I need more strategic guidance. Like, I need you to help me on the financial side from a forward looking and a strategic way. And they just wouldn't make the time to do it. And I'm like, you guys are going to get replaced by AI. I didn't tell them that, but that's what I'm thinking in my mind. I'm like, that kind of just processing returns and that, painful thing we do at the beginning of the year where we do the tax planner and all that kind of stuff. Lauren, do you know anybody who likes doing that? I don't think you like it as accountants. Yeah, I don't think they like, I don't know that younger ones don't like doing it. So I think that's going to go away. That's going to go away. God bless it. Good riddance.
But there are going to be a lot of industries like that, exactly what you described, where the entry level disappears and you have to figure out where do you find experienced accountants or lawyers even if you haven't done that grunt work to learn the profession.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Next topic.
We'll answer that question another time.
Yeah. That's not for us to answer.
Yeah.
Next topic. I almost can't believe I'm asking you this, but I've also been doing a lot of items in the Morning Report lately about the power of TikTok. The basic thrust of these items is that it isn't just for kids anymore, and that it's not just about music videos going viral, that there are businesses finding ways to break through and get in front of a lot of people. I'm wondering if this is on your radar yet.
Well, thanks to the Morning Report, it is now. So if you're not signed up for the Morning Report, you need to be.
Thank you, Sean.
We're in the B2B space. So our customers are businesses that sell to other businesses. And B2B tends to be a late adopter. So businesses that are in the consumer space, really, I think they need to be on this and should have probably been on this for a while. But I'm seeing more and more folks, my peers, fellow business owners using TikTok, even just like kind of recreational TikTok. I have a good friend.
For music videos?
Yeah, videos. So they're not necessarily posting on TikTok, but they're watching videos, for hours on end.
What are they watching?
So take my friend. He's an engineer, super smart guy, knows how to build crazy robots, all kinds of cool stuff. He's probably watching videos on engineering and building things and making things and construction, like things he's really interested in. I don't think he's watching dancing videos. In fact, I'm sure he's not. So, certainly there's the Taylor Swift crowd and there's the, dancing and ice bucket challenges or whatever.
There's anything wrong with dancing, Sean.
There's nothing wrong. I love watching dancing videos, actually. But I just think it's filling a gap in the market. And the gap in the market is what the internet used to be for us, which was you would search for things and you would find fantastic stuff, like a blog that somebody had curated around a niche idea, or maybe even a Facebook page back in the day that was like, really specific and interesting. And what happened is those sites started to monetize things. You think about, they all became advertising driven. And so they start pushing all the content to the top that's all ad driven, which means that niche stuff that doesn't have a profit motive, it goes to the bottom and you never see it anymore. And so the results you get, and I bet you've experienced this, like when was the last time you went to Google and did a search and like the top 10 things were really new and interesting and curious? Like, I mean, serious, right? I mean,
Yep.
it's not a rhetorical question.
No.
I mean, I'm really curious. Like,
No, it's been a while.
It's been a while, but remember back 10 years ago, it was like, wow, these discoveries are so cool. Oh, I found this page and I found this page. So I think TikTok is actually doing what the internet used to be in terms of delivering us the thing that we really want to see and is interesting and not driven by a profit motive.
Although that story I highlighted last week was about them making a big change, which is they've introduced TikTok Shop, and you can sell stuff there now, and they make it really easy to, for people to click on a graphic or something and purchase whatever it is you are selling and take advantage of this engine. And I guess the thing that's been amazing about TikTok all along, as I understand it, is that it's not something that you have to build up a following over years. You don't need thousands of followers to have something, make connections.
Yeah.
To some extent, it's like it's not a toy anymore. Even your friend, the engineer, if somebody wants to sell something to manufacturers, they could find those videos that manufacturers are looking at and connect with them, right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think it's a greenfield, right? It reminds me a lot of 2005 when I moved my business from the southern part of Oregon to Portland. And if you've been to Oregon, the southern part of the state is rural and, small market, hard to make any money. So I moved to a new town and I didn't have a network here. So I didn't have word of mouth referrals. I didn't have any way to get new business. So what we did is we wrote blog posts, lots of blog posts, and we got really good at it. And we got to like the top page of Google pretty quickly. We got the top page for things like brand, marketing, all kinds of terms, website design. And so we would get like a steady flow of leads in this new market we had never been to before because we knew how to really capture a greenfield opportunity. And I think that's what TikTok is at this point. I think it's a greenfield. Quickly, obviously, people are going to figure it out and pretty soon it'll no longer be that way. But I think that's what stage we're at in its evolution.
So are you on TikTok?
I am not. I'm like an adult and I watch TikTok videos on Instagram. So
I'm not on TikTok either. And I'm sitting here thinking, there was a time when I might have been embarrassed to admit I was on TikTok if I had been on TikTok. But I could see it's getting to a point where I might be embarrassed to admit I'm not on TikTok.
Yeah, I think it's crossed that Rubicon. I mean, for me, it's a bit of a personal decision. Same reason I left Twitter a long time ago is like, I get kind of addicted to this stuff and it's designed to addict you. And so it's kind of like the reason I don't have cookies in the cupboard. If I have cookies in the cupboard, I will eat the whole box.
You're not talking about digital cookies here.
Well, no, I'm talking about real cookies. So I have a hard time. And from what I understand, TikTok is massively addicting. I had an informational interview with a potential candidate the other day. And she's like, yeah, I had to delete it from my phone. It was getting so bad, and she's like target audience, right? Probably in her early 30s, late 20s. And so I feared for that reason. And also it's owned by China, which there's some security and safety issues.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, next topic. I recently highlighted another story that gave some surprising data suggesting that over the past few years, women-owned businesses have been outperforming businesses owned by men. I'm wondering if that surprised you too.
It actually did. The last thing I heard around, women owning businesses and involvement it was really the messaging around the pandemic when we heard about women leaving the workforce in huge numbers and how disproportionate the pandemic was on women, largely because of childcare. When the schools shut down and kids were having to learn from home, all that stuff, it was really devastating.
Right. Leaving in large numbers and then being much slower to come back as well.
Yes, right. And I think now we're seeing that, well, maybe some of them chose not to come back at all and instead are starting their own businesses.
And those businesses are doing well.
Yeah, yeah. And that's, I mean, there was a point in Kinesis's evolution where I was the only man at one point. And
Oh, interesting.
yeah, we've been it's just we're an industry that's, predominantly female. And so we've always had a gender skew, probably, 90-10, 80-10, 70-30, I guess 80-20, 70-30. Today it's a little more balanced, but yeah, it's, definitely predominantly female. I promoted our president. She's a woman. She's, taking over my job. I also have been looking lately, independent of this article, about the ratio of male-owned to women-owned businesses and that are our customers. And that has changed dramatically.
Really?
Yeah. At last count, we are almost it's hard. I can't even believe I'm saying this. We are almost 2/3 either women-owned businesses or married couple-owned businesses.
Interesting. And has that change mostly happened since the pandemic?
I think actually that has accelerated since the pandemic for sure. I bet you if I were to go back 10 years ago, it might have been 10%, maybe 20%. And if I were to go back 5 years ago, I don't even think it was 50-50.
So if you've had women working with you all along, it's not a matter of your female employees finding female customers. That's always been the case. It's something else.
Yeah, What is it force? It's things like this. I joined a Vistage group. This is several years ago. I go there and I'm like, wow, there's one woman in the group of 15 people. And so imagine if you're a woman and you join that group, how are you going to feel like you have, people who can understand you, right? So these, organizations that help businesses grow and thrive, historically, they've been so skewed towards men that it can be really difficult for women to get a foot in the door, I'm sure. I don't want to speak for women here, but just looking around, these organizations tend to be very male dominated. So I just think the infrastructure and ecosystems have tended to be male oriented, mostly white male oriented. And so that tends to attract more of the same unless the organization is deliberate about changing that. And so I think what happened with the pandemic is it kind of reset the playing board a bit. Yeah, I think it's real. I think it's a pretty exciting thing.
Have you seen this happening with other organizations in and around Portland?
Absolutely. The most dramatic one, and I'm really, really proud of them, would be probably the Portland chapter of the Entrepreneurs Organization. When I was a member back around 2017, one of the reasons I left was the lack of diversity and lack of gender representation. It was super frustrating for me. It was probably, 80-20, maybe 90% men, male-owned businesses. And it didn't seem like the organization really was eager to change. Since that time, they've radically changed. It's just a much more diverse organization in terms of gender, race, ethnicity. It's pretty impressive. If you look at the board today and you look at the board back then, it is like a dramatically different organization. And the women who are in it are really badass, like really fantastic leaders. I'm not in it anymore, but I have some clients that are. Here's what changed. One is, I think at the leadership level, they made a commitment to change, and they changed their recruiting person. And that was a big deal. So they really said, like, how do members come in the door? Well, they come through the person who does recruiting and onboarding. And that person had been the same person for a very long time. And when they changed that person, I don't know who they put in their place, but the new person clearly had a different directive. And that started to change the organization much for the better, for sure.
Interesting. I have a feeling we're going to be following all these stories, AI, TikTok, and the emergence of women business owners to the way you just described for at least the rest of the year and maybe a lot longer.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. I mean, it fires my team up, like both the men and the women. We were talking about this the other day. We were talking about your article, and they're like really excited, to have a more diverse business cohort. And I think that's also generational. I think,
oh, for sure.
If you look at especially millennials and Gen Z, I think they are really excited by a more diverse business owner cohort. And so that'll continue to change things, for sure. We'll have to put old guys like you and I out to pasture, Lauren.
Well, if that doesn't get us, ChatGPT will.
Well, yeah, we've already been wiped out by the robots. So,
Sean Bussey is CEO of Kinesis, which is based in Portland, Oregon, and works with small businesses on marketing, culture, and strategy. This episode was brought to you by The Great Game of Business, which helps businesses use an open book management system to help build healthier companies. You can learn more at greatgame.com. Thank you, Sean.
Thanks, Lauren.
Have a great week, everybody.